Welcome to this episode of RiskWire Housing Pulse. My name is Reena Agrawal, and I'm a senior research economist at Veros Real Estate Solutions. It is my pleasure to have Lisa Barall-Matt with us today. Lisa is a veteran broker and top producer in the greater Hartford and Farmington Valley area in Connecticut. Lisa has more than 2 decades of experience in a field and excels at creating an effortless path for home buyers and sellers. Welcome, Lisa, to RiskWire Housing Pulse. I'm excited to have this discussion with
Thank you.
today.
Thank you for having me.
Would you like to tell our viewers a little bit more about yourself?
Sure, be happy to. So, as Reena said, I've been in real estate for over 2 decades. I was, prior to this, a corporate IT executive for 22 years. And I decided that real estate was something that I really was passionate about and thought that this would be a great segue into real estate, having developed all of the soft skills in a high impact corporate environment. So I've never looked back. Real estate has been my passion and it still is.
Great. Let's talk about the housing market. Given the current national housing market news about slumping home sales, there are increased contract cancellations, and sellers are offering concessions or even delisting while prices are holding steady. What are you experiencing on the ground in Hartford right now?
Something very different than you read about and that you just described. And I think traditionally we've seen things move west to east. Things start in California, go across the country, and end up on the East Coast. While I could say that we are seeing some limited price adjustments on properties, we are still in a very solid seller market. Houses that are in good condition. I'm not saying great, they need to be in good condition in areas that buyers are interested in, are still selling very well, still seeing a lot of multiple offers. When I say a lot, you could have 10, 12 offers on a property and still seeing them well above the ask price. And we're seeing a lot of buyers continue to buy without home inspections. They're willing to do whatever it takes to get the few properties that are on or come on the market.
That is a very interesting description you have of the Connecticut market. I mean, because every news article is really talking the opposite. So why do you think it is that the housing supply is low, relatively low in Connecticut as compared to rest of the country? Is it because there is fewer new construction, or is the demand so high that the homes are just getting swiped off the market?
Well, I would say there's not a tremendous amount of new construction where I am. So I'm in Greater Hartford and the Farmington Valley. While we saw some new construction over the last 10 years, call it, we're not talking major new construction of single family homes. We are seeing construction of apartment buildings and things like that, which is much greater than we've seen in the past. But as far as single family homes, we're not seeing a lot of new construction. I still believe that pre-pandemic, Connecticut was the best kept secret. Our market was so behind the rest of the country that colleagues around the country, I would share with them, what we have for inventory, and they couldn't believe how low our prices were for given homes. As well as we as agents couldn't believe that this is what the market was demanding. And then there was a great article in a newspaper, and Connecticut came on the map in a very big way. California, Colorado, New York, Boston, People were flocking here literally in droves. And to them, our prices were so inexpensive that they could afford to pay a whole lot more and not even blink. Thus, we started with the trajectory of the increase in our market. And we still have pent-up buyer demand. We still have people relocating. I really thought that by now we would have started to see more of a shift. The only shift we're seeing is this time last year, we had about 19 single-family homes on the market in West Hartford. As of today, we have 40 and then 8 that are coming soon. So we're still not seeing a lot. A normal market here might have been 250 properties.
Oh, okay, so that's very significantly low supply. And who are these buyers? Are you seeing like new first-time buyers, young people, or are they repeat buyers? You're seeing people from in-state Connecticut coming to buy, or is it like you described, people are coming in from New York and Colorado, etc. Where are the main buyers coming from? What is their demographics like?
I would say right now what I'm seeing, I probably in the last month closed several buyers who came in from out of state, Boston, Louisiana, which I was a little, surprised, but they want to be in the Hartford area. They want to be, in Connecticut. New Jersey, I'm finding that the buyer looks like many times still your first time home buyers. But what's so interesting to me is a first time home buyer who's buying a house at 750,000. In Connecticut, pre-pandemic, I would have never seen that. We're talking, $350,000 first time home buyers. Now they are more than twice that just to get into this market. So I think that there's a combination of those that currently live here that are renting and are tired of paying someone else's mortgage and just want to get into the market. And what I'm finding, the trend is the interest rates don't matter. Nobody's saying I need to sit on the sideline until the interest rates come down. I have not experienced that at all in this market.
I find that very interesting to hear because, as I said, all the news is talking about, unaffordability, interest rates are so high, buyers are sitting on the sidelines, they can't afford their mortgage payment. So it's interesting to hear that, in your area, people don't really care about mortgage rates and they just are going ahead and buying. Is it because they come with like a significant down payment, or is it mostly cash payments, or is it, they're taking on the full loan?
I would say that we're seeing a lot of buyers with very healthy down payments. Not 20%, but maybe 35 or 40%. So that's an interesting statistic right there. So we're up in this 700. And again, Connecticut has 169 towns. Every single town is not experiencing what I'm describing. West Hartford, I continue to call it kind of a beast amongst itself. It's a very young community. People want to get in here. It's got a phenomenal town center. So there are people who literally come and say, I only want to look in West Hartford. Similarly, the Valley, Avon, Farmington, Simsbury, I think we're also seeing similar buyers in those communities as well. And then there's towns that are starting to see some price adjustments. They're starting to see houses staying on the market longer. And one of the things that I am paying special attention to is I am seeing houses come back on the market, which a year ago, that was just not happening. So we do have some towns that buyers are doing home inspections where no home inspections were being done for the last several years. Not that I'm a proponent of that, but buyers were willing to do anything it took to get that house. So I think because of home inspections, buyers are getting a little pickier. I'm seeing less of that again in the Farmington Valley and West Hartford area. But I just had a buyer who lost out on a house the other day, first time buyers. The house was on the market at 699.9 and they were in at 851,500.
Wow.
They did not get that house. My guess, if I were a betting woman, it probably is closing in the nines.
That is interesting. So what kind of price growth do you anticipate for the Hartford area over the next year? I mean, our models are showing something like a 4 to 5%, but I think the way you are describing it, is it higher, you think, your forecast or projection going into the next year?
So year over year, we're 10% higher than we were last year in West Hartford. I really do think we're going to start seeing a shift. I don't think this is sustainable. I didn't feel this way a year ago, but I'm starting to see some cracks in the pavement. I really am. If I were to say, my crystal ball probably tells me we'll see half that amount, so more of a 5%
Mm-hmm.
increase over the next year. We had again a 10%. And what's interesting is if I look at my numbers here, we had 6% fewer homes close, but the gross was the same as it was a year ago. Again, supporting the fact that the pricing of these houses has gone up, the closing price has gone up.
I was recently reading an article in the Wall Street Journal that small investors made up about 25 to 30% of single family home purchases in the first half of 2025 because individual buyers have been sidelined due to, again, high mortgage rate, high prices. Is that a fair assessment of the Connecticut area as well, or do you think it's not so many investors, but more individual buyers?
I'm going to say that the individual investors are buying the properties that need more work, truthfully. They're willing to put the time, the money, they've got the manpower, they've got their crew set up. I'm not looking at corporate investors, I'm looking at individual investors who have in the past bought, fixed up and flipped, or bought, fixed up and held. But I am thinking from my experience anyway, and I work with a lot, whether it be investors or, buyers, I don't see the same level. And I did read that same article, and I don't believe we're at the 25% level. Maybe in other towns in Connecticut. I do cover a lot of towns. I may be selling across 15 or 20 towns out of the 169. But there are definitely more rural areas where, you might find more of your investors. In West Hartford, it's hard to be an investor because the prices are so high. And I think investors have taken a little bit of a pause because they need to be able to get out their, ROI.
So there's also, I mean, you said that buyers are not caring about their mortgage rates because they come with deep pockets. What about the sellers? I mean, we also hear the flip side that because mortgage rates are high, folks who have already bought and they refinance, so everybody's sitting on that 3% mortgage rate. So home sellers don't want to put their homes up on the market. Do you see that happening as well, or not really?
Absolutely, without a doubt. Our home sellers all took advantage of getting their 2 and 3% mortgage rates. And when I've talked to sellers that I sold properties to who were thinking about, dipping their toe in, they said, why would I pay 7% when I'm very happy where I am? Let me add on a room if I need it. Let me do some remodeling if I need it. So I see people spending their money doing more of that in the current property they own than trying to buy some new property for more money at a higher interest rate. And that's why we have a bottleneck with so many buyers and so few properties to show, because our, sellers, and obviously some of the sellers we're seeing is if someone's passed If children want, like I just listed something, their kids want them to be closer to them so they can keep, an eye on them as they age. So we're seeing more of that in having properties become available or people relocating than really somebody being a buy-up buyer who said, I'm going to sell and buy, or, even maybe go down because they might be seniors who don't need as much living space, that type of thing. But not when there's no mortgage or a very low interest rate. They're just staying the course and enjoying their homes.
That makes so much sense. I mean, you're right. I mean, why should they pay a higher mortgage? And, once they sell, they may not buy a property they like. And also, uh, that would be so much higher priced as well, given the offers you're saying in West Hartford, right? People are getting multiple offers. So it's a very tough market to buy, I assume, in your area. So, I mean, again, news is talking about there's so much uncertainty, economic uncertainty. People are worried about their jobs. Are buyers talking about that? Are buyers retreating because of that? But you're saying most of the buyers are there to be close to family or, be close to parents or something like that. So is there any sense of that uncertainty creeping into the demand there?
I personally have not experienced that. That doesn't mean it's not happening, where other agents are, seeing that unfold. But a lot of the buyers that I'm currently working with have really solid jobs. Certainly
Mm.
in the intake I do when I start working with someone is try to understand who they are and what they do. And just really solid jobs. No one's ever said, ooh, I need to be really careful. I could lose my job. I've not heard that. Does it exist? It must. But I have not, seen that. There still is a lot of work from home. This Louisiana couple who came here, they both work from home still, even now. So it wasn't a concern to them to move to Connecticut. They loved the idea. They just needed a change, and that's why they moved here. They read about different areas. So I'm not experiencing that as it relates to someone worried that they could lose their job and not be able to carry a house.
So then all this national news we are reading about, I'm sure you're reading that as well, and that must seem very different for you, right, compared to the Connecticut or Hartford housing market. Do you have any opinions what is happening in the, national housing market as such, the overall housing markets, especially when people talk about Florida and Texas, where there is huge supply, I guess, because they had a lot of construction there and a lot of people moved. So prices are also really high. Do you have any insights into
I,
that?
I have friends all across the country. We talk, we compare notes. Good friend in Austin, and they've got more houses than they know what to do with. And she is a big listing agent and has indicated that it's been really difficult, and sellers are able to negotiate, buyers are able to negotiate because there's so many sellers who want to sell. Florida, I think, is a beast unto itself. I think a lot of what we're seeing, and I'm experiencing it myself, I have a property there. We're seeing that the interest, I'm sorry, the insurance is really high. The natural disasters, the hurricanes, the obviously what happened in Miami with that building coming down. The market has been very negatively affected when certain areas were just getting wiped out by these hurricanes. So, and I also think, honestly, you've got Canadians who are not here. I'm not being political, but Florida, I had so many Canadian neighbors and they've all just abandoned. They put their places on the market. There's a glut of inventory. Our place, if we sold a year ago, we probably could have gotten 150,000 more than we could get today. And it's as a result of just the political environment. The Canadians are not coming, and they're not coming to a lot of areas, and that's hurting us as well.
That's an interesting perspective. What do you have anything else you'd like to share with us about the Connecticut or Hartford market? Because what all you told me is quite, I mean, that's what I've been reading about some northeastern markets that they're still staying strong. And we are also forecasting that the Connecticut market is strong. Do you have any other insights about your particular area?
Well, again, I really do think we're going to start seeing a shift. And I'm going to say that that shift is going to be in 2026. I think as things settle out and people have better feelings about their, where they want to be, we're watching things come west to east. And I think that we're not going to be able to sustain this 10% year over year. We're just not. So I do think we're going to see a shift. Do I think anything drastic is going to happen? Absolutely not. I still think that we are going to have a deprived market here with sellers stepping up to the plate and putting their places on the market. So it may shift, but it's not going to be anything significant.
Thank you so much, Lisa, for joining us today. Your insights into the housing market were truly invaluable, and it provided a much needed perspective for our audience. I do appreciate you taking time out to share your expertise with us. Thank you again. It was great talking to you, and I will be
Well, I
in touch.
appreciate you hearing about our area here and being able to, like you said, it's different than parts
Yes,
of the country, so it's interesting to see the different perspective.
it's very different from the headlines we read about all the time. So it's very insightful when you talk to somebody who's on the ground and they have a whole different story to tell. So, thank you so much.